Welcome to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell-Lewis, and thank you all for joining. Hope everyone is having a good week. We are now into the month of April. I'm telling you, it was just February, like literally just February. Here we are in April. So I hope that as you enter month 4 of the year, that things are going smoothly for you, that if you have goals or intentions that you set for yourself, that you are making those dreams happen. Hope that everything is just running smoothly as it can be for you, right? Well, today I'm excited to welcome back a guest to the show that has been here before. Mike Johnson will join me in a few minutes to have a very lively discussion, I would say. Mike is an author, certified sex coach, and the founder of Feeling Seen. Feeling Seen is a platform whose mission is to demystify desire, explain how pleasure can be reached, even when it's difficult to achieve, and make sex easier to talk about. So, stay tuned. I'll be right back with Mike. Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right. Well, everyone, I am so excited. I have a return guest with me today. I'm so excited. Welcome back to the Gyrl podcast, Mike.
Kyra, thank you so much for having me again. I'm so glad to see you. It's been a while.
Yes. Well, we have a really interesting topic today that I am really ready to dive into with you. So before we get into all the goodness of today, why don't you just tell everybody out there listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Mike Johnson, as you said. I am a certified sex coach, and I'm going to school to become a board certified sexologist and clinical sexologist, and authentic tantra practitioner and natural healing practitioner.
Awesome. Wow. You are going to be loaded after that. You'll get people hitting you up for advice like in all areas. So let's talk about your new platform, Feeling Seen. So tell us a little bit about it and why did you start it?
Thank you so much for just even bringing it up. I personally feel that as I'm going down this field and becoming more educated in this field, I feel that this healing, this medicine should be accessible to all. Mm-hmm. And that's why our mission is to redefine wellness by adding sexual to the definition, because the definition of wellness right now does not encompass sexual. It only encompasses physical and mental. Mm-hmm. And I know also with that there's a lot of stigmas and traumas, and people like to be anonymous when we have these conversations. And so I was like, how can we make this accessible for all while at the same time still allowing some form of animosity or being anonymous, and also making it accessible from a financial standpoint, which it's free. And that's where Feeling Seen was created. That's where the newsletter format came in, where people can ask questions, and my team and we have an interdisciplinary way and approach of responding to people's questions. And so, because I have a really intelligent team behind me, and there's all different types of ways to respond to someone based upon their culture, their environment, so many different things. Like it's 5 things specifically. And yeah, I just felt that people should be able to ask questions and get the expert advice, opinion, thought back to them for free.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I do think when people think about health and wellness, that it is just really, for a really long time, it was just physical.
Yeah.
And then as of late, it's become mental and physical. And there is something about like your sexual health that, like you said, it feels so taboo for a lot of people, whether that is like due to trauma, due to how you were raised in the culture you grew up in, where people just feel like, I can't say that. Can I ask this question? So I think, are those some of the reasons with people that you all have gotten questions from, that people still feel uncomfortable talking about these subjects?
a lot of the questions that we get at feelingseen.com is a lot of the people are uncomfortable to bring it up to their friends, or also they just want a real answer, like expert answer from
Mhm.
someone, and they know that they can get that in this platform. But then the cool thing about it also, the reason why we created it as well is because sometimes, like for me personally, the only reason I go on Facebook is to be like, okay, who's pregnant, who's married, let me see what they look like. And like that's kind of the aspect that we have with Feeling Seen as well, in the sense of you
Mhm.
don't even have to ask a question. You can just subscribe, get the newsletters every week, and see what everyone else is talking about. So that
Mhm.
therefore you and your girlfriends, or if you're in a relationship or you're and your homies, can go and have a conversation about that later. So it may
Mhm.
spark a conversation within you. And that's the other aspect that we do with Feeling Seen. So we have, when people sign up, they'll get like a yes, no, maybe sexual checklist. It's
Mhm.
66 questions on there that I've done it with some people, and it's really fun. It's conversation starters. And so that's
Yes.
the other aspect of it. So even if you don't have a question, you can just subscribe to it, check it out. I'm like, oh wow, I
Mhm.
didn't even know this was going on in my life, or my friend is dealing with this, and so
Right.
it's really good for those aspects.
Yeah. And it also feels like it fosters community.
Yeah, that's thank you. You make me smile. That's what we're trying to do. We're a part of therapy is
Mhm.
community, right? A part of therapy
Mhm.
is, there's four pillars to happiness, and one of those pillars is connection, and
Mhm.
connection with other people, connection with like-minded individuals. And so once we build out that portion of it, it will really be robust in the community aspect of it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that is really so key because, as you mentioned with therapy, I mean, there's nothing better than when you're, going through therapy and you meet other people who are
Yeah,
going through that same journey and you're able to just have like discussions about it. Just like, oh, what are you, like, what was your experience like? Telling someone about it and just having another person that is in that. Because when you go to any type of like therapy, healing, I mean, you
we do.
change, you
Yeah,
should evolve, obviously. And I love that there's a platform for people for sex to talk sex and intimacy so that you can evolve in that area. Because I
definitely
think a
so.
lot of times people just get, stuck,
We
right?
do, we do. It's funny you mentioned stuck, because earlier you had said trauma, and there's two things I wanted to say about that.
Hmm.
One is that our traumas get stuck inside of our body. We are
Hmm.
oftentimes we say our issues are within our tissues, and
Hmm.
then two, the word trauma itself, right? A lot of us don't feel that we have any trauma whatsoever. Men, for example, we always hear like, I want my man to be more, open to me, more vulnerable, and all these things, right?
Hmm.
But then when certain people hear the word trauma, they're like, that doesn't affect me, right? And
Right.
something I that's fascinating to me personally is that Western men that have been circumcised, we
Hmm.
literally have trauma just
Hmm.
from that one individual thing, from circumcision, right? And
Yeah.
I this is not what you asked. I'm circumcised, so I'm not coming to anyone that's not, for the record. Like, I'm not trying to, people on the internet be like, oh, you're hating on people. I'm like, not whatsoever. But just
Right.
I said that to say, at times we don't even know what is taking place within our lives that
Hmm.
has caused that trauma, because our brain does a really good job of trying to block it, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
those blocks, those blocks to bliss is what we want to get to.
That was very loaded and packed what you just said, because I think like people they don't think about it. And that's why, like,
Yeah.
I'm just use myself, like you use your personal example. I'm only speaking for Kyra here, but I know that is that feeling, right? When I'm in therapy and I'm trying to like, talk about, well, I don't know, like I just sometimes, when my husband's like coming at me and I'm like, if he approaches me at the wrong angle, I just have like that trauma of something that happened to me when I was younger. And so it catches me off guard. I'm like ready, like, I go into defense. And so, when you're trying to tell someone about that experience, most time, unfortunately, most times, the man's like, well, what? Why don't you, What's wrong? What's wrong with me? And I'm like, it has nothing to do with you. It is literally a mental block, that it is a defense mechanism that my body and mind go into. Like if you come at me at an angle where it feels like surprise, I just immediately like get stiff. And then I'm like,
So,
oh, I got to fight. And then I have to think about, and I have to remember, like, no, this person is not trying to attack me. This
correct.
person is like, this person loves me. And it's through going through therapy and getting help, and talking through those things that I'm able to, like, I still have, it's a journey.
No, for
It's not
sure.
over.
Life is a journey, in and of itself. Like,
Yeah, it's like,
we as we continue to age, we're still in it. Like we're still going through it, and
yeah.
trying to become better.
Yes. And I love that you said that, because I think it's important for people to understand that there may be things in your past that are going to trigger or make you feel a certain way, or make you feel like you want to shut down. It's great to have a platform like yours, feelingseen.com, y'all, to go to and to be able to, like, get help, whether you want to publicize who you are, or if you want to do it anonymously. Like, it's great to have that.
Yeah, I think that the anonymous aspect, I hope that will make people feel a bit more comfortable to just subscribe. You don't even got to ask a question. You can see how things roll or rock. You were mentioning something, and I in my schooling, one of the ladies had said something that, as a man, really hit me, and I mean, it really hit me hard. And you kind of just you made me think of it when you were talking about when your husband, like, he kind of startles you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of the ladies in our class, she was having consensual sex with her partner,
Mm-hmm.
her male, and he was on top of her, and they were like face to face, and his head was over her shoulder though. And all of a sudden, she started crying, and she removed him, and she was
Mm-hmm.
saying, "You can't do that." Um, she was saying, "We can we look at each other?" And it was
Mm-hmm.
bringing back a memory of hers when it wasn't a consensual moment in her
Mm-hmm.
life. And as a man, I've never even considered prior
Right. Yeah.
how the little things could trigger something
Mm-hmm.
from the past. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is what I be talking about when people say, "Oh, I don't know if I have any trauma, man. Like, I'm good to go." Like, bro, one, like I just said about myself, you just on the very basic. If you got circumcised, you have some trauma in that aspect, and I'm sure you're having sex like a jackrabbit and don't know what you're doing because you're trying to feel sensation, because a lot of your sensation pleasure was cut off, and so therefore I can go on a
Mm-hmm.
whole rampant page about that. But yeah, that's a whole topic right there. But it truly is real. Like when you were talking about the starting, I get startled all the time, and my friends are like, "Look, Mike, you're out of the hood. You don't got to worry no more, man. You're good to go now." I'm like, "Hey, you can take the man out of the hood, but the hood is still in my mind, And so things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it takes work, and it takes time. And you have to, like you say, you have to heal in order to feel safe,
Yes,
because
yes,
that's what it comes down to, is that somewhere in that you don't feel safe. And it doesn't matter how much you love that person or that person loves you. It's just, I mean, if you just catch me when I'm like reaching at something in the refrigerator and I wasn't anticipating that you will come up behind me, I mean, we about ready to like scrap.
no, for sure. That's because it's not your conscious; it's your subconscious. And
Yes.
your subconscious is doing its job; it's protecting you.
Yeah.
And so then you got to snap back. Oh, okay, that's just my husband. My bad. I know
I
you
know,
bad.
right?
Like, and so like the person that was on the other end of that example has to realize, okay, that's just her subconscious protecting her,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And it does take time. It takes there's some
Yeah.
within feeling seen. We also have like some exercises that we try to. We're going to be doing so much for the people. I just can't wait.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so what would you say are some common themes that you've seen from like questions that have come in?
Um, Questions around how do I tell my? It's normally a woman,
Uh-huh.
and it's normally a heterosexual woman saying, how do I tell my partner that he's never given me an orgasm without hurting his ego or making him feel insecure? I'm like, damn, that's
Yes.
hard.
That is definitely a tough one.
Yeah, but I mean, we do it. There's remedies for it, and there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of when someone hasn't had an orgasm, there's a lot of things that go with that, right? A lot that we have to uncover. But then there's also men and our bodies, the way we feel within our body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have a really good friend of mine. She's a bourgeois photographer. She says that men
Mm-hmm.
are always the absolute like scariest in themselves. Like we really don't. We have a huge issues within our own bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and in pop culture and just in our individual subcultures, we always think normally it's the woman, but in true, men have a lot of body shame as well. We really really do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I would say the third most one that we get is normally around something that like a woman either having a high sex drive
Mm-hmm.
and or like libido issues within like mismatched libido or
Mm-hmm.
or people wanting to how do they handle boundary situations around boundaries like
Mm-hmm.
we get every type of question you can think of in this niche.
Wow. So I want to go back to something you said earlier about, just recognizing that men have their own body issues, their own
Yeah,
insecurities. And I think a lot of times as women, I know I was guilty of this up until last year. Because I will always say, to my husband, like, oh, don't grab at my fat roll, don't do that, it makes me uncomfortable. And then he was just like, and I said, you don't have to worry about like your body because you're thin, so, and then I thought about that. Like I thought about that, that is what I said, because it was actually ignorant and rude to say, because just because someone is thin, it doesn't mean they're comfortable in their
right,
body. And I
right.
just kept saying, as a way to sort of mask my own insecurity, is to just come back with him and say, well, you're trying to touch me, but like, I'm not comfortable right now because, I'm like, I got the pandemic pounds, like, and you are just, you're skinny. So what problems do you have? But then I remember just going to him and saying that I was like, I'm actually really sorry for saying that. That was a assumption, which we know when you assume what that makes you. And it was unfair to you because I'm not in your body. I don't know how you feel. And he was just like, no, that was really cool of you, because he's like, I don't always feel like great. I think like I could lose a few pounds. And I mean, I'm on the side looking at him like sideways, but I still had to understand that, because your mind will tell you things differently than what is actually being seen by others.
Absolutely, 100%. Our mind plays tricks on us. We've all heard it. The way we feel in our head is not the way that is presented to everyone else. And so
Right.
I love that were accountable in that moment
Yeah.
and just observe the scene of what took place, and and we're apologetic in that. That was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Definitely trying, because, you just say flip things sometimes. You
No,
say,
I get it, right? And again, and when we first started, I said there's 5 ways to come across to someone, and
yeah.
based upon our environment, or like I could talk about it, one of my skinny homeboys, and not think that, but like he's like, well, you have a few muscles, or you're 6'4", 6'5", and like
Right.
there's so many different things that we look about, that we think
Yeah.
about. Guys want to be taller, girls probably want to be curvy.
Yeah.
Like there's always something that we want,
Hmm.
something that we're
Yeah.
desiring. And
Yeah.
so I'm glad you said that. That was really
Yeah.
kind of
And
you.
and taller when you're short. So like I
Yeah.
definitely desire to be taller. It's like just stretch me out, Lord. You could have just stretched me out a little bit, then I wouldn't have to work out so hard. So
I'm
uh,
I'm 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 glad you said Lord right there, because we've had this is the why I love my platform that we've created, because we're all about sex positivity, and
mhm.
we are literally proving to people that hey, you might have some things that you might want to work on. For example, one of the people asked a question around, "Hey, I'm in a Christian relationship, and we this individual, it's a guy, him and his fiance are choosing not to have sex until they're married, and but they both had sex prior, and they're born again virgins, and so they have questions around that, right? Around insecurities in that. But then the following week, we had a question on a couple that are into swinging, and they don't know how to have a conversation with their family and or friends, and like the PTA at school. And so,
wow,
you would think that both of these wouldn't be in the same platform, in the same place, but we're all about abolishing shame. We're all about judgments within people, and so a lot of judgments are within the church. And I grew up in the church. I have God's son tatted on me. I'm a Christian myself, and I go to Bible study. But like a lot of purity culture, for example, a lot of issues come from that in religion, and we have to break those things down. A lot of people in the church don't know where to go to or who to go to. They just did a recent study. This is staggering. What I'm about to tell you, staggering. They did a study surveying over 40,000 people in the church. 90% of those people said they don't feel safe asking a personal question.
Wow,
that is so heart-wrenching.
Yes. Wow.
And I think it goes back to that right there. Just how is Brother Johnson gonna look at me? How is Sister Smith gonna look at me? And all these different type of questions come up.
Yeah.
And so this is why we have that.
That is
really good question.
That's really interesting. Because you're right. I mean, I grew up in the southern Georgia, and in the like Bible, in church, and you just sort of grow up where it's like we don't talk about those things. We don't talk about sex. Like everything I literally learned was like sneaking and looking at HBO at night.
Yeah.
And with
that's funny you said that's like one of my first newsletters I start off with. I'm like, how do we learn about this?
Yeah.
Like, where do we learn it from? Because like it's so like when you break this stuff down, it makes a lot of sense. Like, let's just go with the Christianity or religious aspect in this example, right? So women annoy saying, maybe we all know. Come on, it's just you and I. We know girls, y'all be telling it. Y'all be getting nasty in y'all text messages with y'all girlfriends, right? Y'all be telling all of it, right? And so women are annoyed that they guys not doing it, right? And then guys are like, man, can she do this or can she do that? But if you grew up in a certain environment, how are you supposed to know how to do this and do that?
Exactly.
On both sides of the house, and so like it makes sense for a lot of these issues that have come up. And so, and there's no real outlet for people to have these conversations. It's almost supposed to be like you just deal with it.
Yeah.
Like just deal with it. This is you got married to the man of your life. You got married to the woman of your life. Who cares if y'all have sex issues? Like, but no, we're in a new time. This is why we're redefining wellness. Like, no, I deserve. A woman deserves to have her orgasm. A man deserves to have his orgasm.
Exactly.
We deserve connection, and we deserve health, and we deserve pleasure.
Yeah.
Pleasure in all forms, and so that comes with conversation and getting through it.
Yeah, and like you said too, and no shame, shame for asking a question or wanting to learn more about your body or how to please yourself or how to please someone else. Like, I mean, I think I love all that, and I think there are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people out there that are older generations who never have been satisfied. They've never like been pleasured in the way that they desire or wanted because they were a part of a time where it was shameful. You would be shamed. Like going back to the Scarlet Letter days. You get a scarlet letter if you ask a question or someone found out that you were doing something that felt like it was wrong in the eyes of, everyone else.
Correct. We're living in, you're absolutely right. But, luckily, thankfully, we're living in a new time. I mean, just last week, the priest said, they're going to allow priests to have sex or something like that. That's a whole different thing we can talk about. I can make
That
jokes
is
about it, but I'm not gonna make them joke right
right.
now. So we're just living in a new day and age to where I think
Yes.
that questions should be asked,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't receive criticism for those asking those
Hmm.
questions.
Yeah.
But since we're still in limbo period, we have anonymous.
Yes. And it's like, and even if, like you said, if you never want to come out and say your name, it's just great to have a resource because
Yes,
for so long, we haven't had tools like this site where you could go and ask this question and for free.
yes,
I mean, because that's the other part of like wellness is that today people are still struggling to be able to like pay for mental health.
hmm
People are still, so of course you add sexual health to that. I
hmm
mean, so there's still these issues with like being able to remove those barriers and just say like, oh, this is covered by insurance if you need to get help here. So just to have a tool and a resource where somebody feels like they can go to and they can get the type of help that they need and find that community for people who have the same issues. Who knows?
yeah.
I'm here to connect so many people that are probably going to become friends. Might make some love connections in the community. It's gonna be
That's
all
that's
because of you,
that
Mike.
that that would be awesome. I would feel really blessed and really happy if that took place.
Yes. Okay. So now I'm going to throw a couple of questions at you. Now, there was one that you did already speak on slightly. So, how can someone approach like intimacy if they have like a low libido?
Um, the first thing I would definitely say, if someone has a low libido, to make sure that they're all good to go blood wise within their body. So see a doctor, get a physical.
Mhm.
That's I was gonna be first and foremost. But then
Mhm.
there's multiple thoughts to there's multiple ways to answer this question. I mean, so we have, and I was just working on this actually. I can answer this question from a mind, body, spirit aspect.
Mhm.
I can answer this question from a movement aspect. I can answer this question from like a body and or talk therapy, pharmaceuticals, nutrition, holistic. I mean, there's so many different ways that I can answer
Mhm.
uh, this question. And so a part of why I created Feeling Seen is because I feel that when I hear a question about libido, I can say, oh, here's a pill, take this, right?
Mhm.
But what we're seeing is that with some, not all, but with some pills, they don't work for all people. And
Mhm.
also, the pill may get the job done, but the feeling is still not there,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so, when I just hear the question, okay, if someone says I have a libido, do you have any spice in your life? That would be a
Mhm.
very simple way. I would have so many questions back for you to really answer that question
Mhm.
because there's
Mhm.
so many different ways I can go with that. Are you in a
Mhm.
relationship? Being in a monogamous relationship, science has proven lowers your testosterone. Right, a part of
Mhm.
testosterone for men and women both is going to our libido. Right, and so
Mhm.
there's so many different rhyme and rhythm to this. And the reason I answered it like that is because being in my position, coming from uh, not coming from, but one of the chapters of my life was being on TV. People automatically assume so much about you.
Mhm.
And I have let it get to me being transparent. And so therefore I have so much knowledge and so many
Mhm.
experts in the field behind me that I can't just answer that question
Mhm.
without having
Mhm.
more information.
Mhm. That's fair. But I
Yeah.
think you did a really good job of summarizing the ways that you could. So if someone's
Yes.
out there listening, you're watching, and you're thinking, I mean, they could submit and go into more detail
Correct.
on
Correct.
feelingseen.com,
Yes.
y'all.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
love when people tell a story. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I have low libido issues. Me and my partner have been together for 7 years. You know, whatever the case may be, we might try somatic healing.
Mhm.
Because they could be an individual that's like in perfect shape. They're doing all
Mhm.
the things right, and so therefore it might just be like something like healing developmental trauma, right? It might
Mhm.
be something like, is there some nonviolent communication that we need to work on with you and your partner?
Mhm.
It's so many different ways to get to that
Mhm.
answer.
Mhm. Okay. All right.
Spice it up, go to the mall, go to the dressing room, do all kind of
Yes. Y'all hear that? Okay. What's the best way? Speaking of the dressing room, what is the best way to share a fantasy with your partner?
I think one of the best ways to share a fantasy with your partner is to one, I hate to plug myself, but one, we have really fantastic exercises that you do with your partner
Mm-hmm.
that literally incite conversation. And so that is one of the best. So if you've been wanting to tell your partner, hey, I want to go to the mall dressing room, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
feel uncomfortable saying that because of the way they may come across, what they may say back to you.
Right.
If you're answering these questions with your
Mm-hmm.
partner, it's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful avenue for it to come out. And so
Yes.
now, because it's not necessarily what we say, it's how we say it, but then
Mm-hmm.
when we say it as well. That's what we don't hear. When do we say it when it comes to something like this, when you're the type of relationship that one may be in? And so having a safe environment, safe space
Mm-hmm.
with your partner, not just saying like obviously at the dinner table with your mama or something. That's just like, what are you doing? Like, come on. And
Yeah,
so
not when they are about to go to sleep at night, like it's when
correct,
they're like snoring. Hey, I really want to go to the mall and have.
correct. I
Yeah.
think one of the best things to do for that is just to play a game. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Let it be known that hey, I want to answer. There's like these these questions that you can ask, like 36 questions to know if you're going to fall in love with this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Playing games like that, we have someone feeling seen is the very first thing is the discovery checklist. That will incite those questions that people can ask those
Mm-hmm.
questions.
I
If I
like that.
may,
Yeah.
one thing that you didn't ask, but a fantastic way to have a difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love telling people to do it in nature,
Mm-hmm.
to go outside, go on a hike,
Mm-hmm.
and do it there. One, there's nothing I'm gonna be able to throw at nobody. So if you're in a crazy relationship, ain't no plates being thrown at nobody, right? I'm joking, but not at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Two, you're just in the beautiful sunlight. You don't have to make eye
Mm-hmm.
contact with that person. And so for that, I can be more granular and specific.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to some fantasies,
Mm-hmm.
aftercare, that's a beautiful time to say it. Aftercare, after you have sex,
Mm-hmm.
you should definitely be men, hold your partner after sex. Like beat her. I mean, like if she want to go to the bathroom, let her go to the bathroom, but like hold your partner and beat her, in that space, in that time, cultivate presence in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Aftercare is a beautiful time to say a fantasy that you would like to try.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that. That's good. That's really good. Okay. Okay. Um, okay, so then the other thing is, I think you've hit on this. So I think you've given some really good thoughts on like how to begin conversations that seem uncomfortable, like by utilizing, the questions, playing a game, being in nature. Never really thought about that. That's really good because I never really thought about like being, outside. But it's so good because I think like when you're in your home or wherever you may live and you're trying to have those conversations, you're distracted
Correct.
because you're like grabbing at your phone. And like I know I was, but I think I finally got it last year with my husband to like, I kind of, just pay attention to your person and like how they move. And I was just like, okay, coming home from work right after work is not a good time to have this conversation. Or
Very good.
like, when he's still like working, like, sitting, even though we're sitting down watching TV. But I found like Sunday afternoons is a great time to have conversations with my husband.
See that work. I'm glad what you just said was know your person because Sunday afternoons for me is football season. If it's during football season, right? And so
Now it is football season because like we both watch it. But
there
when
you
it's like, when it's like calm down, but even then, because I'm the bigger sports fan in the house.
go.
So if I need to have a real conversation, I can still do it on Sunday. I just have to kind of take the like, okay, I'm gonna just take a moment, especially if there's something I really want to say. But I just, no matter what time or when it is, people, it's just like you said, knowing your person and
Yep.
sort of understanding like their boundaries, because like for me, I wake up talking. I mean, I get up at 5:40 and I'm trying to tell my husband about what I dreamed about. Well, let me tell you what happened to my dream. My husband is asleep. He is not.
He's like, can we please?
Yeah, he's like, I don't have to get up till 10. I mean, what are you talking about here? But I eventually got to a place to where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that because neither one of us win when I just wake up talking like that. So, Kyra, girl, ease yourself. Go in there and tell yourself about the dream.
You gotta do it sometime. There you go. You gotta do
I
that
either
sometime.
tell myself about the dream or I come downstairs and I write down like the bullets so I don't forget, so that I can tell him like later when he is in a place to receive it. Because if a person is not in a place to receive what you have to say to them, then you're just going to be talking, then you're going to be mad because they're not listening, or they're going to tell you, no, thank you. They tell you, no, thank you. And then you're going to be mad. So
Completely correct. One little trick that I like to tell people to do is in having a conversation that you want your partner to do something, or it's a hard conversation, is to almost sympathize and not rationalize. And so what I mean by that is, instead of saying, for example, let's say I'm looking at my kitchen. Let's say I had dirty dishes out, and let's say I had a wife, and I'm like, babe, you didn't wash the dishes. I'm rationalizing. I need to observe, right? Observe what's going on. Let's say, if a daughter, is her kids running around, is she on the phone? Like, did she have a bad day at work? There's so many things that could have taken place, right?
Yes.
And so first, sympathize. Say, hey, babe, this is one for the record, because on the internet, people don't know your heart, so therefore they can think all kind of things. One, this is just an example. If the dishes are dirty, I will wash my own dishes. I'm not that type of guy. But in this example, I could say something like, for sympathizing, hey, babe, I know you had a crazy, difficult day at work, or did you have a crazy, difficult day at work? Ask those questions. And then another tool is to almost get them something that would help with what you're desiring. So, for example, if my partner, she's getting mad at me for always throwing my dirty clothes on the floor, maybe if there was a hamper, it could be like, babe, I noticed you put your clothes there. Do you think we could put the hamper over here? Would that help? And that's a wonderful way. And then a person gonna pick up on it. They're gonna see what you're doing, but they can't be mad at you for doing it because it was so kind the way you did it, the way you come across.
Yeah,
so that's another.
Just trying to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so glad. I love that you said that, because I think too, like for me, like I work full-time remotely now. And so that has been the thing. My husband goes out, and I know like sometimes, when he comes home, he's like, oh wow, like you're still sitting there in the same place. And but then like after I shot him like a couple of looks, and I was and also had a conversation about like, it's just as mentally draining to sit and work remotely, because you have to work a little bit harder at connection with people. You are on Zoom calls all day where you're like smiling on camera. It just takes it's a different set of skills that you have to utilize when you're working remote versus being in person in office with people. And so then I think like he got that, because at first I think he thought like, I'm just around here like with my dog Max and we just sitting on the sofa, like I'm chilling. I'm like, no, like I'm sitting in the office. And I work in my office all day because I don't like to mix. I don't like to take it outside and, in my home space. And so then I think once we got to a place there where he understood that, so he doesn't come in with that anymore. He comes in, it's like, oh, how's it going? Are you still working? I'm like, yep, just wrapping up. Yeah.
See, that's such a better way to come in. That's a better way to come in.
Yeah. Okay. Don't come in hot, because you will not like what you get back.
Exactly. I'm glad. I'm happy for y'all.
So, Mike, you've mentioned the 5 steps. 5 steps to better sex.
Yeah. You're talking about the feeling scene strategy, our 5-step process? Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit more, please?
Absolutely. So these are, I would say, more than just sex, but you can also do this in conversation. These are also helping in arguments, right? And so the 5 steps are, firstly is discovery. From discovery, we have communication. From communication, we have consent. From consent, we have engage. From engage, we have reflection, right? And so in the sex aspect, the first step is discovery. What do I like? I'm getting mad at my partner because they not, putting it down like I would desire them to put it down. Have you discovered all the things that you like within yourself, right? Something like that as an example. Or it could be an argument. First step, discovery. Let me discover, is there anything going on before I just unplug, right? So that's what we talk about, discovery. And then if you don't know, it's in this order as well, because if you don't know what you don't know, which a lot of people, that happens, then you go back, you take a step back, and then you go back, you reverse it, and then you go into reflection. If you don't know to discover, then you like, okay, let me reflect on the last argument that we had. Let me reflect on the last time we had sex. Let me reflect on the last time you went down on me. All these different type of things. So then, so after reflection is the first step is discovery, right? Discovery, then you have communication. Communication is not just communicating, because when I roll my eyes, that's communicating. It truly is. It's not effective communication, but it's communication. When I'm yelling, I'm also communicating. It's not effective. And so we're going to be teaching people the effective steps to communicating, the proper way to communicate. From there, consent. Consent is a big thing. And for the obvious reasons, choice is the foundation, period. But consent is a big one also, because I think at times we need to give ourselves that consent to forgive ourselves, right? For things that we may have done or things that we did not do, the shame that we may have. And so consent is a big one. But normally we look at consent in terms of like, was I taken advantage of sexually, right? Which is definitely, that's why I say choice is the foundation, but consent also goes into emotional aspects as well. Then from there, engage. That's engaging in the, after we've discovered, hey, I know that my girl loves her nipples played with, right? Then we communicate, medium pressure, light pressure, right? I have consent on that. Now we engaging, in the actual act of that, right? And we're just going to keep this example. After engaging is reflection, so aftercare, or the next day, whatever the case. Okay, I saw you. I saw how you was reacting. How was it for you? Or it can also be in an argument that you guys had, and so it's not just for 5 steps for better sex. It's 5 steps for a better life. And so discovery. You have to discover yourself.
Yes.
Before anything else. Like, this is why my first book was called Making the Love You Want. And so in order to make the love you want, you got to love the best love is the self-love. And so you have to discover yourself first. It's sexual, but then it's also non-sexual as well.
Right.
And like I said, it can go backwards or forward. So for example, if in the engage aspect, when let's just take non-sexual aspect, let's say we're having a conversation of how you like to be talked to when something you did was necessary. Let's say your person didn't like the way you did it, and they're engaging in it. You can be like, let's go 2 steps back, babe. Remember when we were communicating? And I said this. I didn't say that. I said this.
Right.
We discovered I don't like when you raise your voice in me. We communicated. You're not gonna raise your voice in me.
Exactly.
And now we're engaging. I messed up again, but now do you not remember? And so it's for sex, but it's also for life.
Yes, I love that.
True.
I'm sorry, that was just funny. That example was good.
No, it's real.
But it happens.
Real life.
It's so real. It is so real life. Yeah. I don't like when you talk to me like that.
Yes. You don't remember we discovered last month.
What I love though was the facial communication, because you hit that. But what we had said was this.
Yes. We communicated that.
Right. I don't know how we end up back here again, but here we are. But I do like the reflection.
Yes.
because I
Reflection is
think,
absolutely needed.
yes, that I think that's
Absolutely
so
needed.
key. And I also like too that if you aren't in a place to discover, you can start back at the reflection
Correct.
and work
Correct.
backwards. So I think that's really awesome. Love that.
Correct. No, and it's just it's a continuum. It helps people to like a lot of times what people like to do is they be like, give me an example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're like, what did I do? Give me an
Mm-hmm.
example how I did it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pisses everybody off, but we all do it, right? Give me an
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
And so when you can't think of an example, you go back to your reflection. You can't think of it. You can't reflect on it. You go back to the engagement,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe it was a consent.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't ask for my consent to come in the room when you knew I work from home, babe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't like when I'm in the zone right now, for example, right?
Yes.
So it goes backwards and forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
fluid.
Yes. Look at Mike dropping all the nuggets, y'all, today. So you're getting it. You're getting some life lessons here.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
like
This
it.
is
I
this is
like
my
it.
passion. This is my passion. I love it.
All right. So before we wrap, we're going to do 3 things with Mike. Ask you 3 questions. One's a 2-parter. I love that. I love when I say I'm gonna ask you 3 questions, but the first one is 2 questions in one.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
How do you start and end the day?
So I could say the answer that I want and the answer that it is. So let's tell you the answer that it is. I end the day. I'm dating. I have a girlfriend, so I normally like to end the day by holding her.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I end my day. I start my day. I love to like put on some music, like some Tim's, and start cooking and just making some breakfast. I love that.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
What's number 2? What's one thing that you're loving right now? So whether music, books, TV, whatever.
I'm loving all the questions. I'm loving people signing up for Feeling Seen. I'm loving
Mm-hmm.
learning about human beings. I'm loving. Let me give you something outside of what I do. I'm loving. What am I loving right now? Outside of work, I am loving that summer is coming up because I love the summer. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's for damn sure. I'm loving that the summer's coming up and that spring is here and I can go to Dallas where I'm from and see my family and friends. I'm loving that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Love that. And the last question is, if you're a goal or an intention setter, what is the one thing you've set for yourself this year?
The word I'm extremely big on this. I have an entire Notion and I look at it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you the word of the year for me is complete.
Okay.
What I have started and or what I said, I need to complete.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just there's 5 goals that I have this year, and being on the journey is the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Starting Feeling Seen was the first step. It's nowhere near where I want it to be. Like if I told you everything what I'm going to do with it, you're like, oh my God, this is huge. But I started it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to complete it. I'm going until my mission is complete.
Yes. Love that. Yes. Awesome. All right. So if you could leave the audience with 3 things you'd like for them to take away from our conversation today, what would those things be?
That you're deserving of a great love of life, love within life. That there's I think that having that conversation that you should have, you should do.
Mm-hmm.
And then thirdly would be take a walk outside. I think we don't do that enough.
Mm-hmm. Also, love that.
Yeah.
All right. Tell the audience before I let you go how they can connect, how they can learn more about you and Feeling Seen.
Go to feelingseen.com. That's feeling FEELING SEEN, feelingseen.com. You can you message me on there. You can message me on there. You can email me on there, or Mike_Johnson on IG.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I love this conversation. I loved going to a topic that we don't really discuss that much on the show, but I feel is very needed to talk about for all of my listeners and watchers out there. So definitely the Glow Up Girl family, I love having you on, love to support you in any way that we can moving forward.
No, thank you so much. And then too, before I let you go, I just want to say I'm so happy that you're following your pursuit of happiness and still continue to do your podcast. I was really excited to know that.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. I want to thank Mike again for joining the show today. Feel free to go over and check out the Feeling Seen platform at feelingseen.com. You can also find the links in the show notes as well. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, visit us at glowupgirl.com. Check out past podcast episodes, sign up to be a guest on the show, grab our social links, and so much more. Also, be sure to check out our Career Focus podcast episodes as well, where I talk about my personal journey relating to my career and also drop some nuggets for you as well that will hopefully inspire you on your journey. So also, if you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, I'd love for you to do that. If you have any topics or guests that I should know about, feel free to send me an email at hello@glowupgirl.com. You can also find our links and the email address in the show notes too. As always, thank you all so much for joining me, for taking time out of your schedule. I so appreciate the support. Until then, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.